Beautiful day, everyone. Beautiful day. Just going to give it a minute or two to see who comes on the line. And then we will get started. I hope to only be here for about 20 minutes today. I want to give some daily inspiration, finish the daily hexagrams. Well, those will never be finished, but let's see. All right. Okay. Good day, Critical Break. Good day. Good Wednesday to you as well. I have my detox tea with me. Dropped a little one off at the bus stop. Located my Yijing book, because what I want to do starting tonight, I want to go through the various bagua. And the bagua are the individual energies that make up the 64 hexagrams. So this book is Seeking the Spirit of the Book of Change, or as Benabel Wynn made sure that we understand, it's the book of changes, because there are many changes, not just one change. And yes, it is Critical Break Yogi Detox Tea. Actually, Yogi has a few of them. I think there's like one with dandelion and burdock root, or if it's just dandelion. And then there's another one. Hey, I'll show you which one I have. I absolutely love it. Oops, sorry for the glare. I put my studio lights away in the closet, and I really should get them back out, because in that way there would be no glare. And hold on one moment. So I think I've seen like 2 or 3 of these detox teas by Yogi, and this is the one that I am currently using. It's ginger, looks like ginger, cinnamon. It's really good. I feel that I notice a difference in my digestion, which is an issue that I have issues with digestion. This one has Indian sarsaparilla root, cinnamon bark, ginger root, licorice, burdock, dandelion root, cardamom pod, clove bud, black pepper, juniper berry extract, long pepperberry, rhubarb root. That's interesting. Chinese skullcap root. Can't read that word. Coptis root. Yeah, I think that's a Coptis. Forsythia fruit, gardenia fruit, that's interesting, and Japanese honeysuckle flower. I didn't know that there were different nationalities of honeysuckle. Honeysuckle is actually one of my favorite scents. I grew up part of my life in Georgia as a small child, and enjoyed plucking the honeysuckle flower just to get that little bit of nectar on the tip. So anyway, this detox formula I really like, and I know there was another one that had dandelion, but the dandelion one didn't have all of these extras. I think there was only like 6 of them. Which ones do you have, Critical Break? Which ones? So I love this. It's been really good to me. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I decided to bring out, this is the very first I Ching book I had. This was recommended to me. The illustrated I Ching by R.L. Wing. But I have to be honest, the book by itself did not speak to me I kind of struggled with Yijing, and I think it was because I wasn't quite sure. I needed to know the rudimentary parts that made it up. And it wasn't until Benabel Wynn, and maybe because she's female and she's a Libra like me, that she explained it in a way that I could finally grasp it. And also, maybe it's because it was the right time. I mean, I've been exposed to I Ching at least since my 20s. Maybe a teenager, I can't really remember, but at least since my 20s and my 30s. And it wasn't until I was probably 41 that I really started attempting to really dive deep into it. But there was still a hindrance. I guess maybe the time wasn't right. And then here I am 7 years later, finally understanding the building blocks of the I Ching. And so now it makes sense to me. Whereas before, I knew there was something pertinent and important there, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. So anyway, this has been a off and on series that I've been doing, but I've been pretty good at keeping up with the number. And today we are on number 11. And of course, we will again continue to read from Brian Brown Walker, The Yijing, or Book of Changes, A Guide to Life's Turning Points. And his book is more of a interpretation slash translation, which of course almost all of them are. And as I mentioned yesterday, where did I put the book? With the exception of, and I don't, wait a minute, where is it? I have no idea. Here it is. I have my futon sofa here, and if you could see it, you would laugh. And it's no wonder I have, my boys are going for their PhD. They are living the life I'd always dreamed, but I got busy having children. Anyway, I can't find the book. But you know, the Kursan Hong, that is a direct literal translation. So it's good to have that one as well. But if you looked at my futon right now, my sofa, there are books all over it. This is just one of the books. There's 2 books to the side. There's 4 books next to me. There's a stack of books on the floor, all different types of books. Anyway, it is so easy for me to get distracted. So anyway, we are on hexagram number 11. And this is a beautifully balanced hexagram because we have earth, Bagua, and we have heaven. And of course, if you have balance, you're going to naturally have peace. So it makes sense that this hexagram, the English translation, is peace. Maybe even harmony would be good. Here, R.L. Wing titles it prospering. And I guess that makes sense too, because when you have balanced energy, you can't help but to prosper. And I'm just going to bring out my Benabel Wynn translation, the short form book she has. And you can check out Benabel Wynn's website, benebell.com, Benebell. Her course is $45, and it includes the PDF versions of her cards, of her books. The book is completely formatted for you to upload to Lulu, and I only paid like maybe $8, including shipping, to get the book from Lulu. So, and of course, in true Libra fashion, just as I thought, Benabel has This hexagram translated as harmony or balance, which makes sense because it is earth and heaven. And I will go ahead and start us with Brian Brown Walker's translation. Okay, here, I'll put it right here so we can both see it at the same time. And I believe that's probably pronounced Ti. Peace. Heaven exists on earth for those who maintain correct thoughts and actions. This hexagram signifies a time similar to spring. There is a strong flow of energy, and harmony and prosperity are the reward of those who correctly balance their higher and lower nature. Now I'm going to take a break right here and point out where Brian Walker, what's his name? Brian Brown Walker, where he talks about correctly balance their higher and lower nature. Not get rid of the lower nature, not suppress the lower nature. You know, in the Western world, we live strongly in opposition to duality. What do I mean by that? We don't embrace duality. No, we want one or the other. It's either one extreme or the other. You know, we want all the light, but we don't want the dark. Think about that. We want all of the light. We want all of the light. We want all of the light, but we don't want the dark. It's because we've deemed the dark as negative, as bad. Not recognizing the fact that the dark is also the feminine. All right, so let's get back to this. It is by remaining aware of our inferior self while ensuring that the superior self governs our conduct that we arrive at a state of peace. See yourself as a young tree now. The ground around you is fertile. Sun and water and wind are plentiful. By maintaining your focus on moving upward toward light, clarity, and purity, you can reach great heights. If you become entangled in inferior things, you will not enjoy the full benefit of this gracious hour. Stay balanced, innocent, and correct, and good fortune is assured. So if you think about that tree, that young tree that's growing strong and is reaching towards the light, think about this. It's not negating the dark. It's not pulling away from the earth, because what happens if it does? Its roots would be weak and fragile. No, its roots are digging deep into Mother Earth. It's digging deep, and they're becoming thicker and stronger. So we need a balance. We need a balance. So there you go. So I'm going to close that up and put that over there to the side. And I also pulled the Wisdom Keepers card for today, which is idealism. Idealism. So let me find this in the book. And as I mentioned before, this evening, later tonight, we will start going through the Bagua. It's interesting. I just opened the Wisdom Keepers guidebook with one hand, trying to get to the number 11. And the little chapter there on the shadow. And there's a quote from Carl Jung. To confront a person with his shadow is to show him his own light. Just another reminder that we cannot negate the dark for the light. We need both. We need the dark so that the light can come in and illuminate it all. But there's nothing to illuminate if there is no dark. Okay, let me find number 11. See what the message from number 11 is today. The only thing needed for magic to occur is some form of structure and an open mind. The gift, idealism. The shadow, obscurity. The siddhi, light. At home, I was always encouraged to indulge my imagination. I was constantly dreaming up and acting out stories. Who remembers doing that as a child? And it was wonderful. At school, however, when I got caught staring out the window, I was told to take my head out of the clouds, pay attention, and be realistic. So I quickly learned to keep my fantasies to myself. For a long time, no one knew how little I cared about quote unquote real life, which in comparison to my fantasy life seemed completely devoid of wonder. But my parents sensed something was off. They began to worry. They took me to an even more concerned doctor who prescribed some pills and behavioral techniques to end the delusions and bring me back to this world. For a while, it seemed to work, and I was able to get off the medicine, but slowly my imagination kicked back in. This time, instead of keeping my dreams to myself, I desperately tried to manifest them. But they could never measure up to my original ideals. Powerless and angry, I tried to push them away again. But this time, the more I tried to bury my fantasies, the darker and more obscure they got. The demons from my dreams became the people I dated. I kept recreating the same awful situations, especially in my intimate relationships. It got so bad I wanted to escape life entirely. Luckily, I had a dream one night where a polar bear walked right up to me with a golden journal, pen and paints in his mouth. The next day, I ran to the store and started the first of what would be hundreds of art journals. I drew pictures, wrote poems, and painted all of the feelings and visions I'd been afraid to own. I'd learned to trust in the images that came to me. Now, I always provide a free range outlet for my imagination. And I find that just naturally, I am embodying and manifesting my deepest dreams. The gift. I am here to remind you of the incredible power and potential of your receptive, abundant, feminine, magical, tribal, dreaming mind. I come to give you permission to play with your right brain, with the realm of imagery, archetype, and imagination. Trust that everything in the end is a symbol. Whatever comes to you, please do not judge it, over-identify with it, or squeeze it into a preconceived shape. And please don't judge yourself in any way for the unusual or optimistic contents of your imagination. In our modern world, many of us are taught to think of idealists as naive, weak, and deluded people, out of touch with reality. It is true that to manifest itself in the world, idealism needs structure. But without knowing our ideals or recognizing our dreams, how can we possibly manifest anything of true value? To bring our world back into balance, we need people like you to practice magical realism, where your beautiful open mind is honored just as much as the logical plans your brilliant left brain minds might drum up. So that is beautiful symbolism. And I decided to read from the Wisdom Gatekeepers along with the Yijing because there are 64 wisdom keepers, and they are designed to correlate with the 64 hexagram. Check out Rosie Aronson's website. This is the 64 Faces of Awakening. And let's see. Trying to see if it's mentioned on here because, oh, she also has a 64 Faces of Awakening coloring book. I know that, and you can find her at 64faces.org. And I know, let me see if I can find it in here, because I know there's like a companion. It is a companion to the works of a gentleman called Gene Keys, Genekeys. So let's see. Okay, it's right here. When exploring the wisdom keepers, you will notice that each wisdom keeper is connected to three essential concepts: the shadow, the gift, the city. The city is spelled Siddhi, as used by Richard Rudd, and that's Rudd, in the Gene Keys, archetypal, let's see, in the Gene Keys. For Rudd, these define a spectrum of consciousness and refer to the archetypal states that he correlates with the human experiential stages of survival, service, surrender. The shadow has its roots in Jungian psychology, while Siddhi is a Sanskrit term used in both Buddhist and Hindu mystical tradition. I have a friend who has a copy of the Gene Keys. It's a very, very, very super thick book. It might be explicitly stated in there, maybe in some small way, how the Gene Keys, the 64 Gene Keys are connected. Oh yeah, here it is. The 64 Gene Keys correspond to the 64 hexagrams of the Yijing, the 64 codons of our human DNA, and the 64 wisdom keepers in this book. So there you go. There is something I would encourage everybody to really dive deep into the Yijing, because there is great truth. There is very ancient wisdom encoded in there. I know that the 64 hexagram was inspiration for the discovery of binary code, which makes sense because you have yin yang and the taijutsu. And it is a study that will last you a lifetime, and it just keeps getting deeper and deeper. And I know when I first approached the I Ching, I knew it was beautiful. I knew there was something special about it. And, when it was time for me to start to even crack the shell of understanding, it happened. It happened in its own time. Good day, Christina. Okay, so there we go. There we go. I hope you enjoyed that reading. And last but not least, we're going to do our Kuan Yin reading. not necessarily correlated to the numbers of the hexagram, but we will do our reading from Kuan Yin, accessing the power of the divine feminine. And for those of you who've come at this time, you might want to see the video from the beginning where we discuss the hexagram number 11. Okay. Oh, critical break. You'll get a kick out of this. You know, it started our morning with the Yogi Detox, the Yogi Detox tea, which is what I am drinking right now in my artisan made mug. And the Kuan Yin, the aspect of the Kuan Yin that we will look at today, Kuan Yin of the rock cave. Kuan Yin of the rock cave. And the key word is detoxification. So that's pretty cool. Kuan Yin sits at the entrance to a rock cave in the royal, also called the royal ease pose. Poisonous animals, as well as the energies of diseases, gather at this spot, but she eliminates them using the mysterious powers she possesses to protect sentient beings. As modern towns and cities have grown, the threat of poisonous animals have been reduced in many countries, as they have been deprived of their habitats. But now we are exposed to numerous toxic substances, those caused by exhaust fumes or accidents at chemical or nuclear power plants, for example, and we humans carry harmful toxins inside us as well, on both the physical and mental levels. Chinese medicine describes the 5 hollow or cave-like organs where toxins accumulate. Buddhism describes 3 mental poisons that cause disease and act as obstacles on the path toward enlightenment: greed, hatred, and ignorance. And let it not be confused. I remember a while back someone had asked on Facebook, I forget what was the question. You know, something along the lines of what is evil. I think is evil the root, is money the root of all evil? And I said, no, greed, what was it? Greed, selfishness, and lack of compassion were the root of all evil. And the response was, greed is not the root of all evil, because you need greed in order to get ahead in life. And no, you need maybe ambition, maybe a willingness to allow yourself to unfold. At least that's my opinion of it. But greed and ambition are not the same thing. To me, greed is fueled by fear, fueled by the fear of lack, that there's not enough to go around. So greed makes you want to take from everything and everyone else to make sure that you get yours. That's what greed is. And to me, greed is not the same as ambition and wanting to do well in business. So greed, hatred, and ignorance. To me, hatred also is included in having a lack of compassion and selfishness. And it was also mentioned that, well, there's nothing wrong with being selfish. You have to take care of yourself. Okay. Well, I would say to that, taking care of yourself is like being on the airplane. You have to remember how the stewardess, and I know that's not a PC term, but I grew up with the word stewardess and steward or stewardess. What does the stewardess or steward always tell us? Put your oxygen mask on first, self first, and then tend to others. That's not being selfish. Selfish is where you only tend to yourself and to hell with everyone else. You're going to take all the oxygen mask for yourself because of greed and fear that you might run out of oxygen. So let's read the quote from the Lotus Sutra, chapter 25. And once I finish this, I will address the question in the chat room. If lizards, snakes, vipers, scorpions threaten you with poison breath that sears like flame, think on the power of that perceiver of sounds, or as I like to say, think on the power of the one who hears the cries of the world, Kuan Yin, Avalokiteshvara, that place of mercy and compassion that dwells within each and every one of us that we must learn to cultivate. Kuan Yin is you. Avalokiteshvara is you. It is that seed of compassion that is waiting to be sprout. Okay, let me get back to the reading. If lizards, snakes, vipers, scorpions threaten you with poison breath that sears like flame, think on the power of that perceiver of sounds, and hearing your voice, they will flee of themselves. Contemplation. Invoke Kuan Yin of the rock cave. Keyword detoxification. When you want to clear your physical, mental, and emotional secret caves from poisons and unresolved feelings, tune in to her when you want to detoxify or work on dissolving negative or stressful emotions and thoughts. So there you go. That's your inspiration for today. I hope that it is of some help. And let's see, so there's a question. Christina wanted to know, where can I find or buy the books that you read? I would love to have a copy. Okay, well, trying to think. I know this one I got from my local bookstore, but it was a used copy. And this is what we will start going through in this evening's broadcast, along with Benabel Wynn's Book of Changes, Yijing translation, so that we can get a good foundation of the 8 Bagua. We're already traversing the 64 hexagram, and I thought it would be good to have a good foundation. So this is Seeking the Spirit of the Book of Change. Put an S at the end of that word because it's Book of Changes. 8 days to mastering a shamanic Yijing prediction system. And I would say check out your used bookstores, check out Barnes and Noble, and I'm a big fan of Amazon. And I usually purchase in the used section, which is where this book came from, Amazon used section. Didn't help showing the back of the book, sorry. This is from Amazon used. I bought that a couple of years ago. This one I bought like 8 years ago. Actually, did I get this longer than 8 years ago? Yeah, I got this years and years ago, maybe 8-10 years ago, this one. It also comes with a workbook. I can say for myself that it didn't really speak to me that much, but maybe I will go back through it now that I have a better foundation. But ultimately for Yijing, I am a big proponent of Benabel Wynn. I swear that woman, she's has multiple lifetimes of wisdom and knowledge accrued, because there is no way that, I think at this point she's in her late-ish 30s, but she's been at this for years. She is flipping phenomenal. Oh, here's another book. We all know the Four Agreements. Superb book to have. It's like a reference manual. You want to keep going back to it. And this is The Mastery of Love. I have the Four Agreements, and I want to start The Mastery of Love. All right. So I've only gone over 5 minutes. I only wanted this this session to only last 30 minutes. So going 5-6 minutes over is not too bad. So thank you, everyone. And let me bring out my chimes. So maybe I'll see you guys later this evening. I'll set up a live, I'll set up, what do you call it? Like the video to let you know when the live is going to be. And then we can start. I think every Wednesday we will go through one Bagua. And then that way you have a chance to get a copy of the Yijing yourself. I would say, again, go to Benebel Wynn's website, Benebel, like Bene and Bell, like good bell. Benebel Wynn is WEN.com. Only $45 for her Yijing practitioner course. And I think there's like 13 videos included in the course. And instruction manuals. She gives you the very large oracle size cards. Okay, this video is about to go a few minutes over. Forgive me. I talk way too much. My mother and my father both tell me that I started talking before I was even born. My father said that I was speaking while I was in the birth canal. So these are the cards that are included in Benebel Wynn's course. Of course, they're PDF format, and you can take them to Kinko's and get them printed out on 100-pound weight clock, or you can upload them to, I think it's Making Game Cards, or any website where you can print game cards. These are like 5x7 size, and then I have 2 3/4 by 4 inches. So I use these cards, but as you know, my favorite cards to use when I'm doing readings for client are these. And these I like to keep on hand for myself for meditation and contemplation. However, when I do my readings, I use these as well. So she gives you the option to be able to pick whatever background you wanted. I preferred this background on the back of my cards. So yeah, check out her course. It is phenomenal. And I only recommend things that I've used myself and that I know that are beneficial. And it was through Benebel's magical powers that her Libra wisdom, her feminine charms, that I was finally able to grasp the Yijing. So where was I? Did I leave anything out? I don't think so. Any last questions before we depart? Okay. So, and you know, I just set my chimes down and don't know what happened to the bell. Oh, here it is. Okay, so let's take a moment to remember our ancestors and all those who have transitioned before us. May you have peace and great bliss. Thank you, beloved. Please like this video. Please thumbs up. This is Tamu Ngina, Priestess Heart. Thank you for being here. Check out the description box below. Peace.